welcome Karen to our show. She is an athlete her whole life. She was a competitive bodybuilder, figure athlete, and now is a over 40 female training other females to live their best life. I really wanted to bring Karen on because a lot of my clients are over the age of 40. So I feel like someone with your experience, and we've met in person about 5-6 years ago. I felt like your experience is probably working with over hundreds of people, but also going through your transitions in different phases of your life would be a great thing to share with people. Karen, why don't you give us a little bit of bio of your background and what you do?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Harry. I appreciate it and excited to be here. Yeah, so I've been an athlete, as you mentioned, for most of my life. I started as a competitive figure skater. So pretty much as soon as I could walk, I've been, in the fitness industry, if you will. Started competitive figure skating. I got into coaching. I got into off-ice conditioning. And then I started coaching women, the athletes' mothers on the side. And that's how I kind of got into the fitness, and then obviously got my certifications and dove into becoming a registered nutritionist, and the rest was kind of history. Kind of fell into it. It's a passion for me. I love what I do. I've always been more focused on women's health and fitness. And especially now, I find that a lot of women are really struggling when they hit the age of 40. It's, you wake up and all of a sudden, boom, I'm 40 years old and things are not the same. I experienced that. A lot of women think just because I'm in the industry and because I'm an athlete that this stuff comes really easy for me.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I have the same struggles as any other woman out there. And I just obviously have the tools in my back pocket to kind of navigate that better. And obviously the experience, and I've practiced it more, right? So it comes a little bit easier to me, but I still have very similar struggles to a lot of the women out there, especially perimenopause, menopause. I'm coming into my 50th year. I'll be 50 in September.
When you
So
just told me that on a side note, I was like, wow. I'm like, you don't look from the last time I met you to where you are now. You look exactly the same. So, good for
thank
you.
you.
Great job.
Thank you so much. And, I do coach women around that, yeah, it may become a little bit more challenging when we get into our 40s and 50s and beyond, but it's not impossible, right? And we just need to find what works best for us, because we're all different. We're all different individuals. We're all on a different journey. We've all had, different histories. I had quite the history, being an athlete. I had a lot of struggles with body image, binge eating, my relationship with food. I've been at both ends of the spectrum. I've been like really, really lean on stage competing in bikini competitions to being 20, 30 pounds overweight as well too. So I've been at both ends of the extreme. In the last, I'd say 15 to 18 years, I've really found, what works best for me, where I feel at peace with my body and feel I have the right kind of formula to maintain that muscle, build muscle, maintain that strength, but as well nourish my body at the same time.
Think you said something magical there. 18 years, self-improvement, self-discovery, because a lot of people think they'll find it out in, 1 month of doing something, and they can't, and they say, oh, I just can't figure it out. But it's amazing to hear your resilience to, really trying to fine tune things. And obviously as an athlete, you're more in tune with your body, but you still go through the same struggles and transitions that we all through, trying to find that optimization. So that's great. So now in the past couple of years, I follow you on social media. I see that you've really been helping that over 40 plus female, right? So you've probably learned a lot of good habit changes that they should be doing. I always like to ask this question because you've worked with so many people. What are kind of 3 things that you commonly hear from your over 40 female as complaints?
I think the biggest one is, like I just mentioned earlier, I'm doing all the things, I'm eating healthy, I'm exercising, and I turn 40 and all of a sudden, boom, things are really, really challenging and nothing seems to be budging. So basically what was working for them in their 20s and 30s is now not working for them in their 40s. And I personally experienced that. And the other one is the belly fat. A lot of women are all of a sudden, they're waking up, they've got this, they're not understanding what's going on with that. A lot of the times it comes down to obviously their nutrition and their lifestyle habits, making sure they're getting the right amount of macronutrients in their meals. And then other than that, there's a lot of different symptoms associated with this time in life for a woman. And it's very, very individualized. Of course, there's the brain fog, obviously, there's the night sweats, the hot flashes, lack of energy, difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep. These are all things that a lot of women that come to me experience. And these are things that I work on with them. It's not just the nutrition and the fitness. Those two are really important components, but also, are you sleeping through the night? Are you getting quality sleep? Are you waking up feeling refreshed? A lot of people, we're on this autopilot, all day, and we ignore that piece, right? We just think it's normal, right? It's normal to be tired, but it's not, right? So that's a big piece where I really focus on. Sometimes I focus on that first before I get into anything else with the ladies I work with. The other one is stress. And that goes along with the sleep as well too. Stress is huge. Again, we're in this society where we just plow through and it is what it is, but it isn't normal, right? We need to really kind of scale it back. If we look at countries that are thriving, I don't know if you've ever watched the blue zones, but if you look at those blue zones, a lot of these people, obviously they're in a different environment than we are, but a common thing is the stress, right? They take time for family, they take time for community, they take time for themselves, right? And that's a really big component, I believe, that we're missing, kind of piece to the puzzle that we're missing here in our country for sure.
So the three things that you commonly hear are body composition, weight, and belly fat, right? So body composition oriented. Number two would be the hormonal. And number three is just everyday stress management, right? When it comes to external stressors and internal stressors of the body, like sleep, parasites, gut health. What are three recommendations that you generally have to make when you meet with a client and you're working with them in that first 30 days?
I would say nutrition is huge. I start that's square one. That's where I start with most women, is with the nutrition. It's very individualized. Obviously, we know at the end of the day what we should and shouldn't be eating. That's a no-brainer. But it does become very individualized in the sense of, how much macronutrients you're getting, based on your lifestyle, based on your, performance or activity level, that type of thing. Definitely nutrition is a huge one. Making sure that you're getting enough protein. A lot of women that first come to me aren't getting enough protein, and for some reason they're nervous about it. I don't know why. Ensuring that you're getting protein at each meal. I always recommend about 40% of your caloric intake will be protein. And there's different ways to calculate this, obviously. And again, that's where it becomes very individualized. But for the most part, just giving the advice of focusing on whole foods, making sure you're getting protein at each of your meals, lots of fresh fruits and vegetables, and healthy fats as well. Making sure those meals are nutrient dense is super, super important. The other thing is building strength, obviously, in muscle in the gym. It's a tricky time because we have a lot of different, HIIT classes that are available now that are really trending, and, not putting them down or anything. I've personally done them myself, but for a woman in her 40s and 50s, this is actually adding to the extra stress on their body, right? So if they're already stressed out from work, maybe aging parents, raising a family, managing a household, and then we're adding on, 3 to 5 days a week of high intensity HIIT training or cardio classes, then that's actually going to prevent them from losing weight as well too, believe it or not. When in their mind, they're thinking, okay, I'm going to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, but I'm still not seeing the results, right?
Got to burn. They think they got to burn. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where that stress component comes in. Even though exercise is a good stressor on the body, still, if your body is already overwhelmed and your bucket's almost overflowing, then adding that extra good stress on your body is really going to prevent you from seeing your results, and obviously throwing your hormones out of whack and preventing you from losing the body fat. Being mindful around the strength training component, I recommend at least 3 days a week. Again, that's going to be very individualized, but 3 days a week, less than 40 minutes, you're in and out of the gym, very focused muscle building. And aside from that, walking, that's one thing that I add in. Again, there's so many benefits. There's so many health benefits. If you Google walking benefits, there's lists and lists of things, prevents heart disease, certain cancers, diabetes. It helps with, if you're feeling stiff and aches and pains, that type of thing, right? But as well, your mental health as well too. It's very important for that too. So that's one thing that I do recommend. In my clients, like for my clients programming, I always recommend that daily if they can, because we're a society, we don't move that much. We're a type of society that we're getting in our car, commuting to and from work, I have clients that are commuting an hour to and from work every single day. So it's 2 hours of sitting, and then you're sitting in front of a computer all day, right? So we're really not moving as much as we need to be. So incorporating a walk at least 30 minutes a day, you can count your steps if that motivates you. So I'd say those three things are really, really important. But the reason for building that muscle and making sure you get that protein, especially when you hit the age of 40 and over, is that your muscle is deteriorating. As soon as you hit the age of 30, you're losing anywhere between 3 to 8% of your muscle tissue. What that means is longevity, obviously. You're not as stable. You're not able to, you look at frail elderly women, you could just poke them and they'll fall over, right? So having that muscle on the body is going to help with longevity and prevention of falling and injuring and hurting yourself later on in life, but as well for your metabolism too. So that's where we kind of wake up and we're like, whoa, wait a second. Why is what I'm doing, what I used to do is not working anymore? And that's one of the main reasons why, is because you have less muscle tissue on your body. So by ensuring that you get enough protein in your diet will maintain that muscle, help to repair and build that muscle tissue. But as well, we need to be in the gym lifting weights, having enough weights so that you're building that muscle tissue as well too.
So I just want to touch on a couple of points. So what you're saying is you commonly will recommend to your female clients over the age of 40 to eat more protein. So how much protein do you eat in a day, right? I think that's what, because, when I look at yours, you're fit, right? And I think that a lot of clients would be like, oh, she probably does something magical, oh, she doesn't eat that much protein. So how much protein would you say you eat in a day, every day? Because I think that would be a good insight for viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. I average, and again, this is very individualized, right?
Yeah.
So I work out, obviously I walk daily. That's part of everything I'm talking about, I do. In terms of protein, it's approximately about 130 to 150 grams a day. So it
Great.
just really depends, but that's typically where I hit in around there. If somebody were to try and, figure that out on their own, like I said, 40% of your caloric intake can be based on that 30 to 40% approximately. And then another way to, to figure out that kind of number is 0.8 to 1.0 grams of protein per ideal body weight. If you're 180 pounds and you want to be 150 pounds, then you base it on that weight approximately.
And so what sources of protein do you use? Because I think there's still a lot of misconfusion around that. So in your experience, because obviously you going through an athletic endeavors that you've gone through, you've used different tracking systems. And so your food IQ is very high, right? And I find that sometimes when I'm speaking with clients, they think that something like peanut butter is high in protein, but they're forgetting that it's higher in fat. So if you could give us maybe 3 or 4 of your favorite sources of protein and ones that you would probably get feedback from your clients that they enjoy eating, what would 3 or 4 servings of protein, different types, look like for you?
I think in my competition years, I ate way too much chicken breast, and I'll still eat it. But my go-to is the dark meat. It has more flavor. A lot of people are nervous about it because they think it's higher in fat and higher in calories, which it isn't. It's maybe an extra 10, 20 calories per serving, keeping that in mind, right? So if it's a flavor thing, I always say to people, you want the darker meat, that's not a problem. Those are my favorites. Turkey is another one. Fish, I love fish, salmon, shrimp, anything like that. So I always like to encourage a variety when I'm working with clients. I really try to get them to rotate their foods because we have a tendency to eat the exact same foods day in and day out. It's really, really important to try different foods, right? I say at least try it 3 times, just like your kids. When you say, try this at least 3 times, and then you can make your decision whether or not you like it or not. So, and I get my clients to do that as well too. So just trying different foods so you get that variety in there as well.
And then I'm just gonna ask you one more question about fruit, because I think there's still a lot of misconception around fruit. And I know you through your competitive days probably ate a lot of fruit. So being as fit as you are, how much fruit would you say you eat in a day?
I eat a lot of fruit, to be honest with you. I graze on it throughout the day. I love berries. My main sources are like blackberries, raspberries, blueberries are kind of my main ones, apples and pears. And that's just me. Those are my favorites.
Yep.
But gosh, how much? Maybe a couple of cups. I have at least 3 or 4 servings of fruit a day, maybe more. And I encourage that with my clients too. I actually, with nutrition, I keep it really, really simple. Vegetables and fruits. I always say you never see a person overweight or struggling with their body if they're overeating vegetables or fruits, right? That's typically not the issue. I have no limits on that. I just say I encourage people to eat as much as they like, because most cases when people come to me, some people aren't even eating one piece of fruit a day,
It's
which really,
amazing.
really shocks me.
Yes.
So, and they get really nervous, like, oh, I've heard, carrots and fruit can make you, gain weight. And it's not, it's opposite, polar opposite for sure.
So that's great. And I think that people forget that also fruit is very high in fiber. As we, when you're tracking someone's caloric intake, you want to look at their fiber. And
Absolutely.
what people often realize later is they say, Harry, fruit is actually low in calories, low in sugar, and very high in fiber. And I find they don't argue with me about it as much as vegetables, where they're like, I just don't like vegetables, and they can get that extra fruit, and it gets them, when it comes to bowels, it helps very, very well to get their bowels
Absolutely.
moving. So that's great. I like those. I like that because I find a lot of people get confused about protein and fruit still. So I wanted to get your insight. So I appreciate you sharing personal insight, because I think that's what people need to hear more about. Now, when you said about the strength training, I love that you said about 30 to 40 minutes 3 times a week, and then lots of walking. Now, is there a time of day that you recommend for that over 40 client? Is there an ideal time to kind of do that exercise in terms, because we do know that the weights will raise cortisol levels. Is there a time of day that when you're working with like a highly stressed individual that you would recommend a time for them to do their exercise?
I always recommend, first and foremost, obviously when the individual is actually going to get it into their day, right? So if they're getting up, and I've had this with a few clients that have come to me where they're waking up at 4:30 in the morning to get their fitness in. They have a very stressful day, and then they're coming home and they're getting to bed like around 9, 10 o'clock at night, and they're not sleeping properly throughout the night as well too. So they're compromising that sleep. So it just really depends on the person's lifestyle, their schedule. I always say, first and foremost, when are you most likely to get it in? Because you want to make it easy as possible, right? To integrate into their existing schedule. In terms of cortisol, I would recommend best time is usually between 10 and 2. 10 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon is kind of a typical time, but a lot of people can't train at that time, right? I personally train usually from 12 to 1. Some days it doesn't work out that day. Some days it's at 9 a.m. Some days it's a little bit earlier depending on my schedule, but that would kind of be the sweet spot. I do discourage women training later at night, anytime after 4 p.m., because I find this really disrupts their sleep. And again, as we spoke about at the beginning of the conversation, sleep is super important for many different things, for all your metabolic functions, your hormones, resetting, repairing your body, your muscle tissue, connective tissue, all those sorts of things, detoxifying. So, if you're working out at like 7, 8 o'clock at night and you're having trouble falling asleep and staying asleep, then that's one thing that I would look at. I would for sure shift that around a little bit.
The other question I'll ask is muscle building. So a lot of females still think that if they eat too much protein and they lift weights, they're going to get big and bulky. Now, you being a competitive figure athlete, can you give us a little bit of insight on how hard it is to actually put on muscle?
It's
Right?
really hard. I'm a hard gainer, and I
Okay.
lift heavy. And it may be shocking for people to look at me and think that I don't, but I'm pretty strong. It is extremely hard, exceptionally hard to put on like mass. And when I say mass, like I think that's where people's minds are going, is when they see a bodybuilder and they eat tons of protein. But you got to remember these physiques that we're looking at, there's other substances that are being involved in that process as well too. But for a woman, and for someone like myself and yourself, it's very, very challenging to put on that muscle tissue. And I've worked with like so many women over the years, especially women, because they're really nervous about that, about lifting weights and gaining that muscle mass and weighing more. I think it's more of a weight issue more than anything. They don't like to see that number go up. And, I've had women that have started with me with 5-pound dumbbells, and they're petrified to pick up pick those up. And I basically say, if you're going to be training with me, you need to go and invest in bigger dumbbells because you're going to be lifting heavy in the next couple of weeks. So obviously it's gradual. You're not going to go from like lifting 5 pounds all the way up to 50 pounds tomorrow, but it's gradual. And women would be shocked of the progression that they can make within the first 3 months of training in terms of their strength, because they've been kind of holding themselves back for years, doing the classes and doing light weights, thinking, I'm a woman, I can't put on that muscle tissue, right? So they actually have more strength than what they're aware of, right? Yeah. But yeah, it's a tricky thing. Like I said, I've been lifting for years and years and years. I've never had that issue. It's very, very challenging to put on a pound of muscle. It really truly is.
You have to be really training to do that, right? And I think that
yeah,
when we're working with our lifestyle clients, it's like, we want you to have that nice tone look where you take down some body fat, you have some good muscle, but we also have to understand that the lifting of the weights is good for the mind, the breathing, the cortisol, the sleep quality that you're going to get from actually having done exercise that day, and the after occurring effect of like the metabolic and the burning of the fat that goes along with it. So there's lots of benefits that come with it. And I just wanted to touch on that because you went through a program probably where they said to you, you need to put on some muscle. Right. And you had to eat so much food to get there. And a lot of our clients are probably not doing that volume of eating, but they can still do that volume of exercise, and they're still going to have that nice look that they're looking for at the end of the day.
That's just it. Yeah. And in order for that toned look, which we use, toned essentially is putting muscle on your body. So in order to have that toned look, you do have to have muscle, but also we have to reduce the body fat, and that really comes down to your nutrition and building the muscle. So it's really, really important. I really teach the women I work with as well too about longevity, right? A lot of women that do come to me are kind of thinking of that. They're thinking, I'm getting closer to my 50s. Maybe they've got some grandchildren that are on the way, and they want to be able to keep up with these little ones, right? They want to be able to get down on the floor and, play with them and chase after them and lift them and all those sorts of things. But even looking further on down the road into our 60s and 70s, we want to be stable. We want to have that muscle tissue and that bone mass on us so that it prevents us from any falls and injuries and so forth, right? So looking at it from that perspective is really, really important as well too.
And so in terms of 3 things that you do every day, I'm going to guess what they are, but what are 3 things for your health that you do every day?
First would be movement. I move every day. And when I say movement, and this is something I teach as well too, we should be moving every day. Our bodies are meant to be in motion. And I'm not talking about going to the gym and lifting weights. Yes, we need to do at least 3 days of strength training. But aside from that, outside of the gym, we need to be moving more. So that could be walking, hiking, even jumping on a piece of cardio equipment if, with the weather conditions, that type of thing up here in Canada. So daily walking is really, really important. It's a non-negotiable for me. It's not only beneficial physically, but obviously mentally, it's huge for me. It's my way just to kind of clear my brain, to kind of reset things. For a lot of my thoughts can kind of, stir up and think of new ideas for my business or work through certain solutions, that type of thing. It's my time, preferably in nature. And my other non-negotiable is my nutrition. That's always a priority for me. I do eat. Don't get me wrong, I go out to restaurants. I love a glass of wine. Those things are all important to me as well. But my nutrition, in terms of how I fuel my body and support my body, is really, really important, because I find as I get older, I really listen to my body. I've always kind of naturally done that, listening to my body, what works, what doesn't. And I find my nutrition, when I'm eating, 80-90% bang on, meaning getting my foods from, nutrient dense foods and making sure I get enough protein, I feel my best. I have more energy. I sleep better. I have more mental clarity. I don't have the aches and pains, because when we're eating those highly processed foods, we have more inflammation in our body. And that's where we start feeling pain in maybe our wrists or our knees or our hips or our back, right? Headaches can come on, right? So nutrition for me is super, super important for the body, for my hormones, obviously maintaining my muscle. The last one is sleep. It's huge. It's like, I'm so critical about it. Quality sleep, 7 to 8 hours a night in a cool, dark room, no distractions. I keep my phone in the kitchen. I don't have any lights on in the bedroom other than like a salt lamp. So I'm very, very, very specific about that. And I find those 3 things really make me feel my best and my optimal best.
Amazing. And so now I'm guessing that when you also make these, when you recommend these to your clients, they probably tell you the same thing, right? They feel the
Oh,
best.
100%.
Right.
Within the first 2 weeks of working with me, all these symptoms go away. And
Amazing.
like food cravings, sugar cravings, bloating goes away. Not too much information, constipation. A lot of people come to me with gut health issues that can be changed just with their nutrition and lifestyle habits alone. And I find in the first 2 weeks, all those things go away. The bloating, the indigestion, the brain fog, even just switching the nutrition really sets them up for better quality sleep throughout the night, right? They fall asleep a lot better. They stay asleep. They even notice a shift in that. So within the first couple of weeks, all these things seem to be better. And that gives them a lot of motivation to continue on, right? They're like, wow, this is working, right?
It's still amazing. And I love working with clients when they give us back the feedback of that. They're like, I just changed my food and my sleep got better, my mood got better, my performance got better, my rosacea went away,
Yeah.
My brain fog, I got more work done, I had more energy, and they're still kind of in shock. And I tell clients, I'm like, guys, you eat anywhere from 7 to 15 times per day. There is going to be an effect from food. And I just love sharing that with people, because a lot of clients will say to us after they're finished working with us, they'll say to us all the time, if you told me everything that was going to happen was going to be because I changed my food, I honestly would have told you, Harry, that you're crazy, because there's no way food will have all that much of an effect on my day. And then 6 months later, they start telling their friends the same information that I say to people, and their friends think they're just absolutely cuckoo. But it's true. It has a major effect on the body. So I have one question that I want to add, because I think that there's a lot of confusion around this, is what are 3 supplements that you have constantly recommended to your female clients over the age of 40? Because what that age group I find is very much into supplements, looking for different solutions to help them with. And there's so much media out there about this supplement's the best and that supplement's the best. Given your experience and the feedback, because it sounds like you have a very good intimate relationship with your clients, right? And that feedback is amazing. So what are 3 supplements that you commonly recommend to them as well, that they give you feedback saying this one was a really good game changer for them?
I would say the top 3, and you're right, there's so much noise out there that people just don't even know where to start. The good quality multivitamin is a good place to start. Reason is because even if you are eating healthy, our soils are so depleted of nutrients. So, if you're eating healthy and getting organic, we're still not getting the right amount of nutrients into our bodies, especially if we have external stressors like, everything from environmental to, the stress maybe from work or home life, as well as even the chemicals that we put on our body, right? So that's all pulling the nutrients from our body. So it's really important that we make sure that we have quality nutrients, like a good quality multivitamin. I may have more than 3. Magnesium is another one. Most of us are depleted in it, again, because our soils are depleted in it. So our foods are depleted in it, right? And there's over 600 different functions. I mean, I could be wrong on this one, but I know there's over 600 different functions that magnesium is responsible for your body. And a lot of people aren't, they don't realize that, right? Vitamin D is another one that we're lacking in as well. And fish oil is another one, because we can't get it in our food system, right? And especially if you're not eating enough of, the omegas, then you're not going to get that into your system.
So with the magnesium, I'll just ask you 2 questions about the magnesium and the and the fish oil. In terms of one that you recommend, because obviously there's different ones out there, right? Just so people have a little bit more direction. And obviously, I always tell clients about magnesium, there's different types out there, and I like to ask them what's going on in their life to make recommendations to them. What are the 1 or 2 that you constantly refer back to as ones that you've seen results with a majority of your clients? Is it glycinate? Is it orotate, fumarate, bisglycinate, threonate? Which one do you commonly go back to with clients?
It's typically the bisglycinate. That's kind of my standard one. It is gentle on the system. It's really, I find if people do have trouble falling asleep at night, it does help just by adding in a bit of magnesium at night. That kind of solves that problem and staying asleep. Obviously helps to relax the muscles, but also if people are constipated, I find it has a natural laxative effect on their system as well too. So I'd say that would be my number one go-to. And again, it just really depends on what people are experiencing, but I'd say like 95% of the time, that's the one that I would go to specifically.
And then in terms of fish oil, is there a dose? So what we all know, people don't know this, but when you buy a fish oil, it's going to say 1,000 milligrams, right? And on the back, when you turn it over, it's actually the EPA and the DHA that are the active ingredients in the fish oil that are going to give you the healing properties, right? Do you have an EPA DHA recommendation for your clients that you want them to hit, or is it just take 2 capsules of omega-3? What do you have some type of recommendation that you like to give to your clients that's a little bit more detailed, so when people are buying their fish oil, they have a better idea of which ones to get?
Usually it's around 1,200 milligrams, the total amount. I can't remember the breakdown of the specific ones. The brands that I like are Metagenics and Designs for Health. So those are kind of my 2 go-to fish oils. I also use one by Microbiome Labs as well too. So those are some good brands that people can go by.
Those are 2. We recommend Metagenics when it comes to fish oils because we've never had any problems, no burp ups, no issues with quality, and so it works out really well. So this has been really great. I really appreciate you taking the time. I think there's a lot of information, but also great information that where people can take action. So just to recap what you've said too, is that you really focus on nutrition with your clients, specifically making sure that they are eating more protein and they are getting some fruits in your diet. And ladies, it's okay. It's not going to make you fat, right? And then number 2 is making sure that your clients do lift weights 3 times 30 to 40 minutes per week and walk more, do less HIIT, get your cardio and your heart just from walking around, and ensuring that you are trying to manage your stress by ensuring you get better sleep quality. And I'm guessing that's why you recommend that magnesium, because it does help with lowering cortisol and it does improve that sleep quality a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
I think these are really good changes that are not simple, but doable in terms of if we just put our mind to it and prep and organize a little bit more, you'll be able to get them. So Karen, where can people find you? Because I think you should get calls from this one because your knowledge and your ability to communicate, I've really enjoyed it because you've made it really simple. So where can people get a hold of you?
I am on Instagram. So Karen Riedel Gallagher is my handle. I know that's a mouthful, but that's where I typically hang out. You can DM me there. That's not a problem. My website is karen-gallagher.com. You can also reach out to me through my website, but those would be the 2 places where you can find me.
And do you have spots available? Like, do you run quarterly programs, or do you have spots available one-on-one coaching all the time where people can just message you and say, hey, like, I like what I heard. Can I work with you right away? Do you have spots available right now?
I do. I have 5 spots available right now.
Amazing.
It's a busy time of year, so those spots are filling up really, really quickly. But yeah, so the program basically starts when the individual starts their program. So, but right now I have five openings available. So if somebody is interested in learning more, I'm more than happy to jump on a call with them for sure.
Amazing. Well, there you have it, folks. You have a person who is over 45, right? Who has walked the talk, been through it herself, helped many other females. So if you're looking for support, it can be confusing out there. Get a coach, get them to support you through the process and to help you get through the weeds and just coach you through it to get the conversation going so that you're not trying to do it on your own and getting frustrated. There's wonderful people like Karen who have done it and done it with many people. So they're there to help you. And I think this was great. I really appreciate your time. I love the fact that you've done the transition and working with that age group, because my wife is in that age group and she has tons of questions all the time with me. And I think that you're doing a great service to that community. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Harry. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You as well.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.